You may idolize Tom Cruise, but those who've worked with him, the ones who've seen the real Cruise when the cameras stop rolling, tell a very different story. Obsession, a dual persona, absolute control. These aren't just rumors anymore. 6 actors, 6 witnesses, finally revealing the truth behind that dazzling smile. And it all starts with Brad Pitt, the rivalry Hollywood never dared to talk about. Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Hollywood is packed with behind-the-scenes mysteries, but one of its most underrated and awkwardly entertaining rivalries? The quiet, never officially acknowledged tension between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. On the surface, there's no bad blood, no public feuds, no trash talk. But ever since Interview with the Vampire, 1994, people have felt it. The tension, the silent battle, the North Pole versus South Pole energy that Hollywood has politely ignored for decades. Back in '94, Interview with the Vampire seemed like the perfect setup. 2 of the biggest stars in the world, playing immortal bloodsuckers brooding in candlelight, delivering iconic gothic drama. But behind the scenes, Pitt quickly realized that working with Cruise wasn't just intense, it was exhausting. In a rare moment of brutal honesty, Pitt later admitted that filming was pure misery, not just because of the film's dark themes, but because of Cruise himself. "He bugged me," Pitt confessed. "He's North Pole, I'm South Pole. He's always coming at you with a smile. I don't have that. Tom Cruise is a human power drill fueled by ambition and relentless positivity. Brad Pitt is not." Cruise, the perfectionist, treated every scene like it was life or death. Every take had to be flawless. Every movement had to be calculated. Pitt, on the other hand, preferred to go with the flow, embracing spontaneity and creative freedom. And when you put those 2 work styles together, well, let's just say the on-screen tension between Lestat and Louis wasn't entirely acting. So was there an official feud? No. Did they ever come to blows? Not that we know of. But was there an unspoken, slow-burning, Cold War-esque Hollywood rivalry? Absolutely. And honestly, we're still waiting for Pitt to spill all the details in a tell-all memoir. Hollywood loves a good rivalry, but some are so subtle, so under the radar, that they go unnoticed, like the quiet yet undeniable divide between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. It wasn't just their work styles that clashed during Interview with the Vampire, 1994. It was their entire outlook on life. Cruise was the ultimate winner-takes-all competitor, obsessed with success, relentless in his pursuit of perfection. Pitt, on the other hand, cared more about the experience than the end result. He once admitted that working with Cruise felt restricting, not because of any open conflict, but because Cruise set impossibly high standards and expected everyone to match his intensity. A source from the production crew revealed that the 2 barely spoke outside their scenes. No fights, no dramatic blow-ups, just a constant, unspoken competition. Cruise carried himself like a leader, exuding confidence and control. Pitt? He stayed in his own lane, refusing to engage in a battle of egos. After the film, they went their separate ways, both wildly successful, but on very different paths. Cruise doubled down on action films, becoming the face of high-stakes, death-defying blockbusters with Mission Impossible. His on-screen presence was always the same, larger than life, unshakable, practically invincible. Pitt, however, avoided that kind of role. Instead of chasing the ultimate action hero status, he leaned into artistic, unconventional projects. Fight Club, 1999, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, 2008, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019. And here's where it gets interesting. Pitt rarely, if ever, took on roles that mirrored Cruise's. Even in action-heavy films like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 2005, or World War Z, 2013, he brought a different energy, more human, more flawed, less unstoppable super soldier. It's almost as if he intentionally steered clear of Cruise's cinematic territory, dodging any comparisons and crafting a career that felt completely his own. So was there ever an outright feud? No. But was there a silent rivalry shaped by ambition, ego, and two vastly different worldviews? Absolutely. Cruise has always aimed to be the best. Pitt, he just wanted to do what he loves. And maybe that's why they never shared the screen again, because Hollywood didn't have room for two leading men who were never meant to walk the same path. Take a moment to unwind, grab your favorite tea or coffee, and enjoy this video with us. Tom Cruise and Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke is not the type to hold back. Blunt, unpredictable, and utterly unfiltered, he's spent decades making headlines for his raw opinions. And in 2022, he set his sights on one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Tom Cruise. When asked about the success of Top Gun: Maverick, Rourke didn't mince words. That doesn't mean a damn thing to me. The guy's been playing the same damn role for 35 years. I got no respect for that. Boom. One sentence, and Hollywood was shook. Tom Cruise isn't just a movie star, he's an industry institution, a symbol of discipline, dedication, and blockbuster dominance. But in Rourke's eyes, he's an actor stuck on repeat, playing variations of the same larger-than-life, unshakable hero over and over again. To understand why Rourke sees Cruise this way, you have to look at where they come from. Rourke trained under Lee Strasberg and Stella Adler, legends of method acting, a school of thought where actors don't just play characters, they become them. Think Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Daniel Day-Lewis, the kind of actors who live and breathe their roles, sometimes to a disturbing degree. Cruise, he's built an empire on precision. From Top Gun to Mission Impossible, he doesn't just act, he perfects. He trains for months in martial arts for fight scenes. He learns to fly real jets. He insists on performing his own death-defying stunts. He's not just making movies, he's proving a point. But to Rourke, that's the problem. Rourke believes that acting should be raw, instinctive, unpredictable. He's the guy who throws out the script and chases the moment. Cruise, on the other hand, is all about control. Every movement, every word, every tiny expression is rehearsed and refined until it's flawless. And that's where their worlds collide. Cruise's perfectionism has made him one of the most bankable stars ever, but it's also built a wall between him and actors who embrace chaos. In Rourke's mind, Cruise isn't transforming. He's performing the same persona over and over again with machine-like precision. So, is Rourke right? Or is he just Hollywood's resident rebel, throwing bombs for the fun of it? Either way, one thing is clear. He and Tom Cruise were never going to share the same screen. And honestly, that might be for the best. Mickey Rourke isn't the only one who's called out Tom Cruise's obsession with perfection. Plenty of actors, especially those who thrive on improvisation, have struggled with his methodical, almost military-grade approach to acting. Case in point, Mission Impossible Fallout 2018. For the film's halo, high altitude, low opening jump sequence, Cruise refused to use a stunt double. Instead, he jumped from 25,000 feet 106 times just to get the perfect shot. Or Top Gun Maverick 2022, where he insisted that the entire cast undergo months of pilot training to ensure their performances looked authentic. No green screens, no shortcuts, just real in the sky, high G-force flying. There's no denying that this level of dedication is insane, but it also raises a question. At what point does perfectionism become overkill? Brad Pitt, for example, found Cruise difficult to work with on Interview with the Vampire, 1994. Not because of ego clashes, but because Cruise seemed more concerned with maintaining his image than forming genuine connections with his co-stars. Even Steven Spielberg, who directed Cruise in Minority Report 2002, once hinted that Cruise's need for control could create tension on set. And then there's Mickey Rourke's take. An actor shouldn't care how they look on screen. They should care about the emotional truth of their character. To Rourke, Cruise isn't a true artist. He's just a relentless worker. But here's the thing. Tom Cruise doesn't need to prove himself to anyone. Love him or hate him, his movies dominate the box office. He may not be method acting his way into Oscar bait roles, but he is delivering the kind of blockbuster spectacle that audiences crave. So, should Cruise change his acting style to earn more artistic respect? Absolutely not, because at the end of the day, he's not just an actor, he's a brand, a phenomenon, and a one-man Hollywood machine. And as long as people keep buying tickets, he's got nothing to prove. Tom Cruise and John Travolta. Tom Cruise and John Travolta, two Hollywood icons, two of the most powerful figures within the Church of Scientology. At first glance, they seem like natural allies, bound by their shared faith and superstardom. Yet for decades, rumors have swirled about a quiet but undeniable rivalry between them. Unlike the open feuds that often dominate Hollywood gossip, this was different, more subtle, more insidious. Rather than being partners in faith, they became polar opposites. Two men locked in a silent battle for influence, recognition, and power within Scientology's inner circle. For years, Travolta was Scientology's golden boy. He joined the church in the mid-1970s, just as his career was taking off with Carrie, 1976, and Saturday Night Fever, 1977. He credited Scientology with guiding him through the pressures of fame, shielding him from scandals, and providing a sense of purpose. Travolta was deeply devoted. He did not just practice Scientology, he embodied it, becoming one of its most vocal supporters. The church, in turn, protected him, elevated him, and treated him as a cherished figure within their ranks. For years, he stood at the pinnacle of the organization, representing everything Scientology wanted in a Hollywood star. By 1986, Top Gun had catapulted Cruise to superstardom. Around the same time, his then-wife, Mimi Rogers, introduced him to Scientology. But unlike Travolta, who had gradually risen through the ranks, Cruise's ascent was meteoric. Scientology's leader, David Miscavige, took a personal interest in him, seeing Cruise as the ultimate representative of the church's ideals: power, discipline, and complete dedication. Cruise was not just another celebrity member. To Miscavige, he was the chosen one, the perfect face for Scientology's global image. For Travolta, it was a devastating shift. He had been the Hollywood Scientologist, the church's most high-profile asset. But now, he was being pushed aside, overshadowed by Cruise's unstoppable rise. Travolta remained loyal, but there was little he could do to stop the transformation. The more Cruise devoted himself to Scientology, the more the church rewarded him with special privileges that no other member received. The contrast in their treatment was stark. Cruise was worshipped. He had his own team of Scientology-provided staff, personal assistants, chefs, drivers, all dedicated to serving his every need. Travolta, despite his decades of loyalty, never received that level of treatment. Reports even suggested that church members were ordered to renovate Cruise's homes and modify his luxury vehicles without payment. It was clear that within Scientology, there was one set of rules for Cruise and another for everyone else. But it was not just the material perks that set Cruise apart. It was the direct mentorship from Miscavige himself. The Scientology leader took Cruise under his wing, personally guiding him on how to integrate Scientology's teachings into every aspect of his life and career. No other Hollywood Scientologist had been given such access, not even Travolta. It was a blatant sign that Cruise was being positioned as the church's new favorite, and Travolta knew it. Former high-ranking Scientology executive Mike Rinder detailed Travolta's frustrations in his book, A Billion Years: My Escape from a Life in the Highest Ranks of Scientology. According to Rinder, Travolta was far from pleased with Cruise's rise. John was used to being the #1 guy. Then Tom came in and took that spot. It didn't sit well with him. Travolta, who had spent years believing he was Scientology's most important Hollywood figure, was suddenly a second-tier member, and it stung. Despite this, Travolta remained publicly loyal. There was never an outright confrontation between the two, but behind closed doors, insiders saw the tension. Some reports even suggested that Travolta tried to use his influence to undermine Cruise's standing within Scientology, but it was too late. Miscavige had already chosen his champion, and nothing Travolta did could change that. There are several key reasons. First, his global superstardom. Unlike Travolta, whose career had its ups and downs, Cruise never faded from the spotlight. His image remained dominant, powerful, and scandal-free, making him the perfect face for Scientology. Travolta, while still successful, could not match Cruise's level of mainstream influence. Second, Travolta faced persistent personal rumors and controversies. While the church protected its high-profile members, Scientology also had a reputation to uphold. Cruise was seen as a flawless, commanding public figure, while Travolta's personal life was often the subject of speculation, something the church likely wanted to distance itself from. But perhaps the biggest reason was simply Cruise's personality. He is relentless, charismatic, and unwavering in his convictions. Unlike Travolta, who has always had a more laid-back, approachable energy, Cruise exudes intensity. His obsession with perfection, both in his career and in his devotion to Scientology, made him the ultimate ambassador for the church's philosophy. Today, both men remain high-profile Scientologists, but their paths have never crossed in any meaningful way. Travolta faded from prominence within the church, while Cruise remains at the very top, cemented as Miscavige's most trusted ally. Outwardly, they may appear cordial, but those familiar with Scientology's inner workings know the truth. This was never a friendship. It was a silent war, a battle for influence, and in the end, only one could come out on top. Hollywood may never acknowledge it, and neither will they. But behind the scenes, it is clear Tom Cruise won, and John Travolta never recovered. If you enjoyed this video, drop a 1 in the comments, and if not, let me know with a 0. I appreciate your feedback. Tom Cruise and Brooke Shields? What began as a personal disagreement between two Hollywood stars quickly escalated into a nationwide debate on mental health, women's rights, and the influence of celebrities over medical discourse. At the center of it all were actress Brooke Shields and actor Tom Cruise, two of the biggest names in entertainment, locked in a public feud that would dominate headlines and stir controversy for years. To understand the gravity of this clash, we need to go back to 2005, when Brooke Shields published her memoir, Down Came the Rain: My Journey Through Postpartum Depression. The book was a raw and deeply personal account of her battle with postpartum depression, a condition that affects millions of new mothers. Shields described the darkest moments of her struggle, from overwhelming despair to feeling emotionally disconnected from her newborn daughter. She openly discussed how antidepressants had played a crucial role in her recovery, helping her regain stability and reconnect with her child. As a beloved actress since the 1980s, Shields was not only admired for her beauty and talent, but also respected for her intelligence and willingness to tackle difficult topics. By sharing her experience, she hoped to break the stigma surrounding postpartum depression and encourage other struggling mothers to seek help. But just as the conversation around maternal mental health was gaining momentum, Tom Cruise stepped in and set off a firestorm. During a 2005 interview on Access Hollywood, Cruise openly criticized Shields for using antidepressants, calling them dangerous and unnecessary. He did not just disagree with her treatment, he publicly condemned her for it. I've never agreed with psychiatry, ever. Before I was a Scientologist, I never agreed with psychiatry. And when I started studying the history of psychiatry, I understood more and more why I didn't believe in it. As a devout Scientologist, Cruz had long opposed psychiatry and psychiatric medication, both of which Scientology views as harmful and illegitimate. But what made this moment especially controversial was that Cruz was not just expressing a personal belief, he was attacking a fellow actor for seeking medical treatment. His remarks were not just dismissive, they were irresponsible, inflammatory, and deeply personal. Shields, however, did not back down. Refusing to let Cruz's words go unchallenged, Shields published an explosive op-ed in the New York Times, calling his comments dangerous and uninformed. She pulled no punches, delivering a scathing response. Tom Cruise should stick to saving the world from aliens and let women who are experiencing postpartum depression decide what treatment options are best for them. Her jab at War of the Worlds, Cruise's blockbuster film that had just been released, was both sharp and symbolic. Shields made it clear that Cruise had no medical expertise and no right to tell women how to manage their mental health. She emphasized that antidepressants had helped her recover, allowing her to be a better mother and regain her well-being. More importantly, she used this moment to advocate for women everywhere, reminding them that seeking help was not a weakness, but a right. Her powerful response ignited a larger conversation. Doctors, psychiatrists, and women's health advocates rallied behind Shields, publicly condemning Cruz's statements. The backlash was swift and widespread. For the first time, Cruz's status as Hollywood's golden boy took a serious hit. For months, Cruz held firm in his stance, refusing to back down despite mounting criticism. But in 2006, something unexpected happened. He apologized. And he did not just issue a public statement, he made it personal. Rather than going through the media, Cruz showed up at Shields' house to apologize face-to-face. He came over to my house and apologized, and I thought that was really nice because it takes a big person to do that, Shields later recalled in an interview. In a surprising turn of events, Shields accepted his apology. The two even rekindled their friendship, with Shields attending Cruz's wedding to Katie Holmes later that year. Cruz's public apology marked a rare moment of self-reflection for the actor, showing that despite his intense beliefs, he was not entirely inflexible. While he never renounced his opposition to psychiatry, this incident changed how the public viewed him. It was one of the few times Cruz admitted he may have been wrong, proving that even Hollywood's biggest stars could make mistakes and own up to them. Tom Cruise and Richard Harris. Richard Harris, a legendary actor with a career spanning decades, was never one to mince words. Having worked alongside some of the greatest talents in cinema, Harris witnessed Hollywood's evolution firsthand, from the golden age of raw, method-driven performances to the modern era of high-octane blockbusters. But when it came to Tom Cruise, Harris was far from impressed. In fact, his critique of Cruise was as blunt as it was brutal. He's good at running, but that's all he does. For Harris, Cruise's ability to dominate the box office was undeniable, but he believed that true acting required more than just physicality and charisma. A master of old-school stagecraft and dramatic depth, Harris came from a generation that valued introspection, subtlety, and emotional complexity. To him, Cruise was a Hollywood machine, built for stunts, explosions, and spectacle, but lacking the raw artistry of the greats. Harris's words sparked heated debate. Critics and cinephiles began to question whether Cruise was simply an action star or a genuinely versatile actor. On one side, there was no denying that his biggest hits, Top Gun, Mission, Impossible, The Mummy, were all high adrenaline blockbusters featuring Cruise sprinting through gunfire, scaling impossible heights, or escaping in daring chase sequences. But on the other hand, There was compelling evidence that Cruise was more than just a man who could run. While Harris dismissed Cruise as a performer who relied on spectacle, many countered that Cruise had proven his dramatic abilities time and again. His performances in Rain Man, 1988, Magnolia, 1999, and Born on the 4th of July, 1989, showed that he could deliver emotionally raw, deeply nuanced performances. His role as paralyzed Vietnam War veteran Ron Kovich in Born on the 4th of July even earned him an Academy Award nomination, a feat that hardly aligns with Harris's suggestion that Cruise was all about physicality over substance. Harris's harsh critique of Cruise reflected something much deeper than just personal opinion. It represented a clash between two eras of Hollywood. Harris was a product of the golden age of acting, where figures like Laurence Olivier, Marlon Brando, and Daniel Day-Lewis were praised for their ability to disappear into roles, channeling emotion and transformation above all else. Acting, in Harris's eyes, was about psychological complexity and artistic depth, not box office numbers or flashy sequences. Cruise, on the other hand, rose to prominence in a completely different Hollywood, one driven by blockbusters, global appeal, and mass entertainment. The era of carefully crafted monologues and slow-burning character studies had given way to high stakes, visually stunning films designed to captivate audiences on a worldwide scale. For Harris, this shift likely felt like a betrayal of true acting, making it difficult for him to appreciate why Cruise had become one of the most powerful figures in the industry. Despite being written off by some acting purists, Cruise never settled for being just an action star. Instead of relying solely on high-speed chases and daring stunts, he sought out challenging, layered roles, working with visionary directors like Stanley Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut, Paul Thomas Anderson, Magnolia, and Michael Mann, Collateral. With each film, he demonstrated that he was not merely a charismatic leading man, but an actor capable of depth, nuance, and transformation. But perhaps Harris's words, whether fair or not, played a role in fueling Cruise's relentless ambition. Throughout his career, Cruise has continuously pushed himself beyond expectations, refusing to be boxed in by any one label. He could have coasted on Mission, impossible sequels, and box office glory, but instead he repeatedly took on dramatically intense roles that forced audiences to see him in a new light. There is no doubt that Richard Harris held acting to an exceptionally high standard, one that few, if any, actors could consistently meet. But was he too harsh on Cruise? The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. While Cruise may not be the type of actor to disappear into roles like Daniel Day-Lewis or Anthony Hopkins, he has done something just as remarkable. He has shaped modern cinema itself. Unlike most actors, Cruise has maintained control over his career, consistently reinvented himself, and raised the bar for what a Hollywood star can do. He is one of the few performers who can balance box office dominance with artistic ambition, continuously challenging himself while redefining the action genre. At the end of the day, whether Richard Harris acknowledged it or not, Tom Cruise's legacy is undeniable. And perhaps, in a way, it is exactly critiques like Harris's that have fueled Cruise's relentless drive, the determination to prove that he is far more than just a man who runs well, but one of the most influential and enduring actors of his generation. Tom Cruise and Leah Remini. Leah Remini was once one of Scientology's most prominent members, but after leaving the church, she shattered the illusion of Tom Cruise. In her memoir, Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology, she exposed a very different side of the superstar, one far removed from the charming, heroic persona Hollywood adores. According to Remini, Cruise is a master performer, even in real life. She recalled a disturbing incident at his home where a staff member accidentally dropped a cup of tea, only for Cruise to erupt in rage, flipping from cheerful to furious in an instant. This, she claimed, was the real Cruise, a man obsessed with control, hidden behind a carefully curated public image. Beyond his acting career, Remini revealed that Cruise is not just a devoted Scientologist. He is one of the most powerful figures within the organization. Scientology leader David Miscavige idolized him, treating him as the ideal Scientologist. Staff members were assigned to serve Cruise, and even the smallest mistake could lead to severe consequences. One of Remini's most shocking claims involved Cruise's 2006 wedding to Katie Holmes. She casually asked, "Where's Shelley?" referring to Miscavige's wife, who had mysteriously vanished. Immediately, she was reprimanded, labeled a troublemaker, and subjected to a disciplinary meeting. Holmes herself was also under intense pressure during her marriage to Cruise. Remini revealed that at one point, Holmes even wrote a letter denouncing her to Scientology leadership, only to later follow in Remini's footsteps, leaving the church and cutting all ties to protect her daughter, Suri. Remini firmly believes that the public only sees the version of Tom Cruise he wants them to see. Tom Cruise may do good things, but he is also capable of causing far more harm than people realize. Despite the controversy surrounding him, Cruise remains one of the most untouchable figures in Hollywood. But as more insiders speak out, the question remains, who is the real Tom Cruise? I would love to hear what you want to learn next. Share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll answer them in the upcoming video.